Hi everybody, Carol Garrison here with Carol's Creative Escape. It is Monday, November 25th, which means it's time for another Make It Monday. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I do appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and I've been making cards for over 30 years with the goal of simply spreading joy one card at a time. I'm hoping that I can either encourage you to send cards to people that you know or tap that inner creative side that you're not sure exists in there and start making cards yourself. Either way, I figure that's a win. I hope everybody's had a good week. Again, just kind of a sort of busy week at work last week, but was able to take some time this weekend to get Christmas lights at least hung up while our weather is still good. And then I took some time to spend with my sisters, and we took a little field trip to a greenhouse to make a holiday planter for our front porches. So that was a lot of fun to be able to do that. I hope everybody's had a good week. If you're here in the States and you're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving, be careful if you're traveling and just enjoy this time with family and friends. I have a really cool fun fold that I found tonight. It's got an angle cut, which I kind of avoid angle cuts on my cards because I find it really hard to line my paper up if I need to layer it with designer paper, but I will show you a little trick, I guess, that I worked through tonight. And I have an example of this as a kind of more feminine floral-y birthday card, a Christmas card, and then I am using the Adventurous sky to create a masculine birthday card. It's been a while since I've done a masculine card, so I am excited to see that out there and get a chance to play with this set again. And I am going to stop talking here and just get you started real quick. Oh, I do want to share one thing. Hi, Lynn. Thanks so much for joining in. I do want to share one thing. If you've been following Stampin' Up! At all over the years, you know that in January, we usually will have what we call celebration. And this year, or this coming January, 2025, is no different. As a demonstrator, I got to get a sneak peek at both the January to April mini catalog that's coming out, and also the celebration. And in fact, I got to place an order. Mine is supposed to be coming, I think it's on Wednesday. Fingers crossed. I might have gone a little bit overboard with some of the stuff that I got, but I'm excited to have that coming. Beautiful. There's some really, really cool stuff out there. There's one die that I can't wait to show you all how it works because I was just really impressed with what I saw in the catalog. So anyhow, hi Ann, Anna, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera over, and again, I apologize for the close. Oh, there we are. I also think that Knox might be joining us temporarily. Yep, there she is. Sweetie, I can't see what's going on. All right, Knox. Come here. I know. There we go. Sorry about that. I just never know who's going to show up here at my house to help me with my cards. I am going to leave stuff well enough alone because I think we are pretty good in terms of being straight here. Let me get a little bit more room on my desktop by getting rid of my fancy dancy 2 paper pumpkin box camera stand. It works. It works. All right. So to start off with, like I said, I am using the Adventurous Sky stamps and dies, as well as the coordinating designer series paper. Knox is going to come back again and join us here. Don't you, my phone cord? Nope. Nope. She's big enough. I can't just grab her off my desktop, but perhaps that has startled her enough that she won't come back right away. And in the meantime, let me get my inkers put away. And thankfully they were all closed and I didn't have any open ink pads. Okay. Sorry about that. That's life at my house. Okay. Oh, and she moved my camera too. Crud, after I worked hard and had it all straight in there. That's probably the worst part. Let's see what happens. You could tell it was a little bit angled. Oh, there's another inker too. Okay, I think we're pretty good again. Let me make one more adjustment. All right, we're back now. This is the Adventurous Sky Stamp set. So it's a great masculine set. It is a red rubber stamp set. And it does come with coordinating dies. It is what I would consider more of a masculine set, but certainly if you've got somebody that you know that's a female pilot, you could certainly use this set with them. So that is what I'm doing. This is from the annual catalog, and I'm also using some of the designer paper from that catalog. So let me show you real quick. This is the fun fold. I was inspired actually by a Canadian demonstrator by the name of, I think as stuff went flying just now, my notes, Loritamarie Crafts is her business name website. And so I had some fun when I saw this. In fact, it was the first card I looked at that I said, I'm going to make that. That's the angle, and that's the part I usually struggle with. And you can kind of see that here because it's not totally even. This was my first attempt at this. And this is the Beauty Abounds or Unbound. What was that one? The Unbounded Love is what this paper and the stamps and dies are from. And it's just kind of fun the way it opens up. You can show off the coordinating designer series paper. And then on the back is where you put your panel for writing, and I decorated it up with a little more designer series paper. So that's kind of my florally, more feminine looking one. Here is my Christmas card. And this is featuring Peacock, Pretty Peacock for the ink color. And this is the Christmas designer series paper that came back from last year. It's the Winter Meadow. Sorry, I'm several feet away from my camera. It's the Winter Meadow designer series paper. So this one I did a little bit more monotone in my colors, just featuring the Pretty Peacock. And then I used some silver to die cut this tree out. And this piece is supposed to come out. And I instead used it just to add a little bit of texture. I didn't pull it out. There's a couple spots where it didn't cut all the way through. And I was really happy about that because it just gave, like I said, a little pine tree texture to the tree. And again, you open it up. You've got the angle. You can tell I figured something out here because I got that much better. And then to flip it on the back, I've got the nice Christmas stamp. And boom, we're ready to go. So those are the 2 card samples. I'm going to give you the measurements for all the supplies, and then we will be doing some cutting on the fly here today as well. So you start with a 5.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, so that you're only going to get 1 card out of a full piece of cardstock, and then you'll have a nice sized 3-inch strip that you'll be able to use for other things. You also need to have a 4.25 by 5.25 inch piece of basic white or very vanilla cardstock, depending on what paper you're using. And this is what's going to go on the back. And I just dressed it up with a strip of the designer series paper and a couple of the airplane stamps, figuring I could make a quick note in there. You also need a piece of designer series paper that will measure 4 by, I want to make sure I did this, 4 by 5.25. And it just looks a little narrow to me, so I might have to quick grab that one is a little bit narrow. Let me go grab that paper and cut a new piece real quick. Not sure what I did. No idea what I did, but we'll get that fixed real quick. So I'll just set this up at 4 inches. And I only cut it like this because I've got that funky little piece right there. By cutting it this way, I still have a nice 4-inch strip of paper from this particular package that I can use. We'll set that one aside just so I don't confuse myself. So, again, we've got 5.5 by 11. You're going to score it at 4 1/4 and 8 inches. So 4 1/4, 8 inches. And then I've got designer series paper that's 4 by 5 1/4. We've got the basic white that's 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have another piece of designer series paper. This one measures 3.5 by 5 1/4. And finally, the last piece of designer series paper. This measures 2 3/4 by 2.5. I used a piece of scrap basic white to die cut the happy birthday sentiment. The die and the sentiment are part of the Adventurous Sky bundle. And then I also die cut one of the airplanes out of there. Again, on a scrap of basic white. And I wanted just a little color, but I really didn't want to spend a ton of time coloring this plane. So I just took one of my watercolor brushes and spread the ink around to add some color to that plane. Nothing fancy on that. You can decorate it however you want. I also took a couple scraps of my silver paper and used the dies to cut out propellers. And then I have 3 of the trinkets that are part of this suite that I will use to decorate my card. So before we can get started assembling this card, I need to do a couple more cuts. I need to make this diagonal cut and I need to make this flap. So the first thing that I have already done, and I have to first fold my card just so I know where I'm supposed to be making my cuts and have it folded right. So I know this is going to be my back piece. This is going to fold over and this piece will get cut, and this is where my diagonal's coming from for this section. I'm visual and that just helps me see it a little bit. So I've got a line here that measures, or I've got my score line, and on there I've just taken my ruler and I've measured up 2 3/4 inches from the bottom. And I'm going to be cutting this from the diagonal on that score line down to here. But before I do that, I want to create this flap. And I'm doing it this way because for me, this was simpler. You can try doing it however you want. I'm just letting you know what worked best for me with a little trial and error. So I'm going to line up. This is the bottom of my card. So I'm actually going to be flipping this over to line it up at 2 3/4. That ensures I'm going to end up right at my little tick mark there. So I'm going to be coming in here and I'm just bringing my cutting blade right up to that line. Okay, so now it hit right where I had that dot. And the next thing I'm going to do now is create this diagonal. So I actually found it easiest to do if I folded this flap back and then lined up that score line in my gutter where my blade will cut. So that part right there. And then I'm just going to rotate it until this corner where I cut is lined up. So does that make sense? So that's the 4 1/4 mark score line, and I'm cutting it diagonally till I hit that, what is the 8-inch score line. You want to make sure that you're not cutting the corner of that flap, because that's going to create issues for you too. And so I just get it lined up, and I'm going to come through and cut it, and you'll end up with a piece that looks like this. That's great to go into your scrap pile. Okay, so now you can see I've got those 3 pieces. Now, what I found easiest for me when I was creating, let me get the right piece of paper here. So this is going to be my background. This will be this piece, and then this is going to be upside down place, this piece. So what I did was lightly, I've got some tape that I use for when I'm taking pictures of my cards and I don't want it to stick. This is just a real lightweight tape, and I'm just putting a strip on. It's not super sticky, but it will hold it here for me. So I get the bottom lined up where I want it, so my borders are even. And then I'm just going to trace from the back side with my pencil that diagonal line. Now that gets me even with my cardstock when I place it, but it does give me the correct angle. And so when I put it in my cutter, oh, I don't like how that marked up there. Just a minute. I look a little crooked. Okay. There. Sorry, I just didn't do a great job of marking it. All right, so now I've got my angles marked on here. So all I need to do is drop this down about 1/8 of an inch. I admit I struggled a wee bit coming up with that 1/8 of an inch mark until I realized that if I put it here and I'm catching that, I can get it right to the 1/8 inch mark. And so I'm now going to line my line up there with the 1/8 inch mark. I'm going to have to kind of eyeball it on this one. So it's not 100% perfect, but it does work. And I just want to be, try to get the same on both. And that at least is going to give me the same angle. And I'm going to cut it off. I may be a little bit off, but that's all right. At least this angle is going to be pretty consistent. Hopefully that makes sense. That's just what worked for me. All right, now we've got all the cutting and scoring done, and the rest is going to be really easy to assemble. So let's start by putting the back on our card, because we know that's going to be simple. And I think my tape dispenser went flying when I had to kick knocks off the tape. Nope, there it is. So I'm just going to add adhesive to the back of my card. And if it helps you to see where we're at, by all means, fold it before you start attaching stuff. Look at your opposite corners, make sure they're even, and you should have that fairly well spaced. The one thing I did not do that I meant to do is burnish my seams. When I'm making a fold like this, I do like to go back and forth both directions. It just breaks fibers down a little bit and makes the card go a little bit flatter. You can do as you desire on that. Okay, so now we've got the back attached. You can dress that up however you want. Like I said, I just used a couple of the stamped images and a little bit of the designer series paper that's featured elsewhere in the car. The next step is to add this background piece, and I didn't just pick 2 patterns that coordinate, and don't worry a whole lot about it. You can alternate. You can use all the same pattern. It's really up to you. And again, when you're laying this out, just look at opposite corners. If they're even, go ahead and put it down. And then we'll adhere this piece next. And before I start to put adhesive on it, I do like to see just how close I came. And it's not bad. I think it's important. You can kind of hide some of the other stuff, but I think it's important to have that angle even. So let's go ahead and add adhesive to this. And if you watch me make cards, you know I tend to open my cards up when I'm adding my paper layers. I don't know why. It's just my thing. So we'll put that down. This has always been my nemesis, doing angled cards, is getting that piece right. So I'm kind of glad I figured that little piece out. And then I'm just going to add this piece, which again measures 2.5 by 2 3/4. And it's going to go on this side. So make sure that you've got your flaps going right. And that gives you all the designer series paper and stuff. So the next bit is going to be adding this airplane. When I got my paper wet, because it's not, I'm just using regular cardstock, it kind of curled a little bit. So I'm going to see if I can curl it the other way and get rid of some of that curl. And I'm going to put this plane right across here. I can add dimensionals to this plane, and I think I will, just to give it a little texture. Oh, those are mini dimensionals. I don't want those. Those are mini dimensionals. Here's some full-size ones. And we'll just plop it in. And you know, I think I am going to grab one of my mini dimensionals. And we'll put that there. And this card is going to come with a little bit of extra decor on the back side, which will include some cat hair. You can charge extra for that if you sell your cards. And I'm just going to put that on at an angle so that it's not hanging off the bottom. And then I've got 2 propellers cut, and I was struggling to decide if I just put one on here or I put 2. And I'm going to go with just one because this stamp shows it spinning already. So it's got the, sorry, I'm off camera here. It's got the swirls on it. So I'm just going to leave it with just one propeller. And I am going to use my liquid glue. Just because I want to make sure that it sticks. Oh, it's not coming out, and I don't want to squeeze it too hard because you know what'll happen then. It'll blurp out on me. Just like that. Ugh. All right. Good news is I have 2 propellers here I can work with. So that's just what I'm going to do. Let me get a little bit of tissue. I usually don't have that problem with this glue. I'm not sure what happened. It's been a while since I've used it, so it may have just kind of dried up a little bit. Don't let it scare you. But now since I have a little blob on here, I don't need to squeeze it. I can just touch it on my paper. And there is a prop mark on the airplane. You can kind of see where the prop would be. And so I'm just going to stick this propeller right on top of that. It just adds a little bit of pizzazz to the card. I'm going to wipe that blob of glue off and get that back into the storage. And then I've got this happy birthday, and I have been trying to decide where I want to put it. And I think I'm just going to add it to the top here. I don't want to add anything more down here. And it's a narrower piece than what my tape runner is, so I'm getting my craft mat, the silicone mat, and I'm just running my adhesive against that, and that way it doesn't stick to my surface, my work surface. And I'll kind of use the lines on that paper to get it straight, and there we go. And then finally I've got 3 of these trinkets that come with this set, and I'm going to put those on here. These I'm going to adhere with my glue dots. So let's just go. They have kind of a flat back to them, so it's easy to do the glue dots. This does add some thickness to the card, so if you are going to be mailing your card, you may not want to use these. If you can hand deliver your card, I think they make great. If you do need to mail it, just be aware that it's not going to go through the scanning machines. It'll have to be scanned by hand, which means it just costs a little more postage. It can still be mailed. It just changes the price for you. It actually still fits through my card measure piece, so it's not that thick, but because these stick out, they're likely to get caught in a postage machine. So the other thing that you could do is just put a thicker piece of cardstock in front of it and take your chances when you mail it. But I think this is one I'd like to hand deliver instead, just to be on the safe side. So there you go. That's kind of my modified, I don't know, Z-fold, angle fold card featuring the Adventurous Sky. I say it wrong every time. So Adventurous Sky, masculine type birthday card. This is using the Christmas Designer Series paper, making a very pretty, peaceful Christmas card. And here's kind of a feminine birthday card using that same fold. Each one features a slightly different front, slightly different technique in terms of how I've combined my papers. And then certainly how I've decorated the front of the card. I was pretty consistent on the back of each card with just a little bit of stamping and some designer paper. It does take a little bit of time to do the cutting and the prep for this card. It's not one I'd mass produce 50 of, I don't think, because I don't have that kind of time. But it is a fun one to make in small quantities. And I hope I've inspired you tonight to give it a try. Again, if you're in the US and you're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving this week, have fun with family, friends, however you choose to celebrate. For those of you that might have to work on the holiday, whether you're a first responder or in the healthcare field or some other field that requires 24/7 hospitality, thank you for working those holidays. I appreciate it. Coming from a family in all 3 of those areas, with 2 of the 3 working on Thanksgiving this year. But everybody, take care. Have a great time with family and friends, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.